Greetings world and greetings 7 Spot Jim here in beautiful Coquitlam, British Columbia, where I had the opportunity to pay a visit with Rod McClellan. He's in the process of building a Jaguar Tojeiro, and he's motoring right along. He gave me the opportunity to come in and take some photographs and had a little walk around video, and it's just great. But he's a very private guy. He doesn't want to be on film making a presentation. It's kind of like me, a little bit on the shy side. So what's going to follow is kind of a montage of some of the photos of his build and a little walk around on behalf of that I took, and I hope you enjoy it.
A chassis like this one sat in the Ecurie Ecosse transporter in Edinburgh in the spring of 1958. David Murray's mechanics loaded it carefully. It had taken one man in a Cambridgeshire shed the better part of a year to build. It was going to Goodwood, then Le Mans. Jim Clark sat in it and discovered he was as quick as anyone in the world. Masten Gregory sat in it and discovered something rather different about the outside of Woodcote. 4 were built. 3 still exist in various states, and now there is this one, built 67 years later in a garage in British Columbia, by a man who understood exactly why it was worth building. Most people have heard of the AC Cobra. What most people don't know is that the car underneath it was designed by a self-taught engineer in a shed in Cambridgeshire, who sold the rights to AC cars for £5 per chassis. He later called this commercially naive. He was not wrong. John Tojeiro kept building. By 1956, he was making Jaguar engine sports racers for the most ambitious privateer team in Britain, Ecurie Ecosse. The Scots, who'd already won Le Mans twice. Jim Clark drove one, Masten Gregory drove one, and at Goodwood in 1959 went over a bank, broke his collarbone and left the car folded in 2. Most people who build a replica start with a rough sketch and a pile of ambition. This one started with a professional CAD model. Before a single tube was cut, the entire car existed as a precise digital model. Every suspension pickup point, every chassis node, every component dimensioned and cross-referenced. The steering wheel position, the transmission tunnel, the brake master cylinder, all modelled, all positioned, all checked against the original Tojeiro-Jaguar specifications before fabrication began. John Tojeiro worked from instinct, sketches and long conversations with Vin Davidson over a cup of tea. The methods have changed somewhat. This is the car, one of the 4 Tojeiro-Jaguars ever built. Restored, campaigned at historic events and still racing at Goodwood. This is the car being replicated. Every build starts somewhere. This one started with a truck bed full of Jaguar parts, an XK straight 6, a gearbox, a differential, suspension components in various states of wear. Everything you need if you're building a Tojeiro-Jaguar replica from scratch. The engine that would eventually power this car arrived looking like it had thoroughly earned its rest. It hadn't finished working yet. Before you can build, you have to understand what you're working with. The Jaguar independent rear suspension was stripped down for assessment. The complete mechanical spine of the car, engine to gearbox to prop shaft to differential, laid out like an anatomy diagram, every component assessed before a single new tube was cut. An MGB contributed its front crossmember and steering rack to the cause. It is not clear the MGB was consulted about this. This is where it starts. Tubes on a table, the engineering drawings pinned alongside for reference. The chassis begins as a 2-dimensional puzzle, tubes cut to length, mitered at precise angles, tacked one joint at a time. The original Tojeiro-Jaguar chassis was a space frame, triangulated steel tubes, each one carrying load in pure tension or compression, none of them bending, light and stiff. It was Tojeiro's signature approach, and it's what made his cars competitive against much better funded opposition. This chassis follows the same principles. The triangulation pattern is the same. The geometry is the same. The difference is that this one was designed on a computer first, and every tube was cut to a tolerance that Tojeiro's shed in Arrington could never have achieved. The Dion Tube is the component that defines the Tojeiro-Jaguar specifically. A Dion axle locates both rear wheels on a single tube, keeping them parallel and perpendicular to the road, while the differential is mounted separately on the chassis. Better handling than a live axle, less unsprung weight than full independent suspension. It was what Tojeiro specified for Ecurie Ecosse. It's what this car has. When the finished chassis came off the build table and onto trestles for painting, the full complexity of what had been built became visible for the first time. Dozens of nodes, every joint TIG welded, the whole thing lighter than it looks and stiffer than it has any right to be. Tojeiro's first frame came out of the jig bent like a banana. This one did not. Every build has a moment when it stops being a collection of components and becomes a car. For this build, that moment was the day that the wire wheels went on for the first time. The chassis is still on the build table, the suspension geometry isn't finalised, the engine isn't in, but the wire wheels are on, and from this angle, in this light, it already looks exactly like what it's going to be. It's going to be a Tojeiro-Jaguar. Some builders reveal themselves in the big decisions. This one reveals himself in the small ones. For this build, that moment is the half shafts. Most builders source half shafts. They buy them, modify them, adapt something from a donor car. These were machined from scratch. Billet steel, turned on the lathe in the garage to the exact dimensions the Dion geometry required. They are objects of considerable beauty, the kind of component that will never be seen once the body goes on. The heat tint on a freshly TIG-welded joint, blue, gold, purple, is one of the more beautiful things that fabrication produces. It disappears under paint. Wishbones, trailing arms, hubs, half shafts. Every suspension component on this car was fabricated in that garage. Every single one. At some point in every serious build, the chassis gets painted. It means the fabrication is done, the geometry is set, the structure is complete and signed off. Everything before paint is engineering. Everything after paint is assembly toward a finished car. The engine went back in, the suspension went back on. Painted now, colour-coded, chassis in grey, suspension components in dark green. The dark green on the suspension components is the same shade Ecurie Ecosse used on the mechanical components of their cars. That is not an accident. Most people would just buy a steering wheel. A steering wheel manufacturer makes thousands, available off the shelf in every conceivable diameter, material and spoke configuration. That's not what happened here. The rim is stained walnut. The spokes are machined aluminium, 3 of them lightened with slots, period correct to the Ecurie Ecosse cars. The rivets hold the rim to the spokes, every one drilled and set by hand. The moment the steering wheel went into the painted chassis, the car stopped being a project and started being something you might actually want to drive. The cockpit of the original Tojeiro-Jaguar was a narrow, purposeful space, a bucket seat, a dashboard with the essential instruments, a large steering wheel, as little else as possible. The weight saved on cockpit appointments went into the chassis. That was the philosophy. The firewall is painted dark green, matching the suspension components. The aluminium sill panels are cleccoed in place, copper fasteners running in a precise line along the bottom edge. From underneath, the sill looks like the inside of an aircraft fuselage. Given that Tojeiro learned his practical engineering on the Fairy Swordfish, this feels entirely appropriate. The engine that arrived in the truck bed was a Jaguar XK straight 6, exactly the right engine for this car. It's what the original Ecurie Ecosse Tojeiro-Jaguars ran, but not in the condition it arrived in. The engine was stripped to a long block, assessed and rebuilt. The kind of rebuild that takes considerably longer than anyone admits when they start it, and produces something considerably better than what went in. The rebuilt engine emerged with Weber DCOE carburetors, triple Webers on a Jaguar XK straight 6, a period-correct specification for a 1958-59 competition car, and an entirely serious piece of engine preparation. The original Ecurie Ecosse Tojeiro-Jaguars ran twin SU carburetors. This one is rather better fed. When the rebuilt engine went back into the painted chassis for the first time, with the custom exhaust manifold, the aluminium radiator, and the fabricated header tank all in place, the car announced itself. This is what John Tojeiro built in 1958 for Ecurie Ecosse. This is what Jim Clark drove. This is what Masten Gregory tried to exit at Woodcote. This is that car. The exhaust manifold deserves a moment of its own. A 6-into-1 exhaust on a straight 6 is a technically demanding fabrication. 6 primary pipes of equal length, timed to the firing order, collecting into a single outlet. Getting the primaries equal requires precise bending and careful measurement. Getting the collector geometry right requires an understanding of gas dynamics that goes somewhat beyond bending tubes in a garage. It was made in the garage. On the same bench as the half shafts and the wishbones and the steering wheel, there is a theme developing. This is what the finished car will look like. The barchetta shape, the long nose, the sweeping tail, the low cockpit, the shape that Cavendish Morton painted onto canvas in 1957 and Maurice Gomme beat into aluminium from that painting. The body shape was modelled in CAD, the cross-sections plotted at precise intervals along the car's length, and the resulting curves printed full-size on large format paper. The prints were transferred to plywood, cut out, and assembled as a body buck over the chassis. Every former cut precisely from the printed templates, the pile of curved plywood pieces that will define the car's shape. Bonnet section trimmed and faired. Cavendish Morton used a paintbrush, Maurice Gomme used a hammer and dolly. This builder used a router and a CAD workstation. All three arrived at the same shape. The nose of the Tojeiro-Jaguar is the most distinctive element of the car. The long, low barchetta snout, the covered headlamps, the single horizontal crease that runs from the nose back to the wheel arch. Capturing that shape in fiberglass requires a plug, a physical model of the surface carved and faired to the final profile from which a mould is taken. The plug is foam, sprayed over a wooden former, then carved. It is, at this stage, pure sculpture. Maurice Gomme beat aluminium over a wooden buck from a painting. This builder is carving foam over a plywood former from a CAD model. 70 years apart, the same problem, the same solution. There is a theme developing. This is where the build stood. The chassis is complete and painted, the engine is rebuilt and in, the suspension is assembled and colour-coded, the Dion Tube is in place, the custom exhaust is fitted, the radiator and header tank are fabricated and installed. The steering wheel, handmade, walnut and machined aluminium, is on the column. The body buck is assembled over the chassis, the nose plug is being shaped. The fiberglass body will follow, then final assembly, then paint, then the first start. After the first start comes the first drive. It's going to be worth waiting for.